Welcome. So, I'm going to do my best at telling my testimony now. Um, I never intended to do this on this channel, but, as Christians, we are meant to share our testimony, so I'm going to share it as best I can. My channel was always intended to be anonymous, so we'll see. Obviously, one day I think the anonymity will leak. I'm not stupid. I think that'll one day happen, but I'm going to try to maintain it for as long as I can. And that said, I'm just going to get straight into it. So, with my childhood, it was pretty normal. I'd say nothing really occurred. Weren't really brought up religious or anything. I know my grandparents were like Methodist, but no like Bible in the house and no real chastisement for not being Christian or anything like that. And I would say I'd largely didn't think God existed. And growing up, I eventually just was by the time I left school, I was okay with the idea that if when we cease to exist when we die, then if there isn't anything, then we can no longer come to harm. That seemed like a good way to deal with it, I suppose, as a 16-year-old. But then I suppose just before that, actually, when I was 15, me and my friend were around at another friend's house, and we were on sort of separate beds, and the person whose house it was asleep on this double bed, which I was also on as we were watching this film. But we'd been watching the film with just subtitles on, an old school Chinese dubbed martial arts film. So we were playing like an album from the time, which might have been something like Incubus, something like that, over the top, just while we watched it with the subtitles. And as I turned off the television, I believe, and just kept the music on, sat faced the window, a head went past the window, which was up in the bedroom, so nobody should be that tall. They'd be insanely tall if they were really up there. And it had a nose and a chin, and it bobbed up and down. It was real as anything I've seen. And I turned to my friend and said, "Did you see that?" He said, "That had got past the window." What? Shot and over to the bed that he was on with both our backs against the wall. That was definitely very creepy. And now I would definitely put that under the parameter of demonic activity now, from what I now understand. And then when I was around 20, I was bore witness to what is commonly referred to as the night hag, which I now understand to be one of the forms that Lilith takes, and appeared at the end of my bed at my genetic father's house when I was sleeping over at Christmas, one of the Christmas periods. I think it was like Boxing Day, or what we call Boxing Day in Britain anyway, the 26th of December. And there was an old translucent, sort of see-through woman, veiled, old, at the end of my bed. So I woke up, looked at her, and like, well, shook my head. And then she was like, had warped straight in front of me, and then like paralyzed me. People have said to me that it was sleep paralysis, but it wasn't, because I was wide awake. I've had sleep paralysis many times, and that was not sleep paralysis because I was wide awake and I couldn't scream or anything. And she grabbed my hand, and then where she had grabbed my hand was like incredibly warm, and the backside of my hand was like freezing cold. But I've always kind of attributed it being cold on the reverse side as like my hand being hung out of bed. So maybe I cut out the circulation of blood on it a little bit. But certainly the juxtaposition of the two temperatures left me knowing that really just did happen, and something appeared to me and touched me. And that isn't the last time that has ever happened, to be fair, but we'll get to that later in the video. But I'm still sort of agnostic at this point. Don't think God exists. I'm open to the idea, because just the Big Bang as being an explanation never really settled anything for me. I was sort of like, but what's caused the Big Bang then? So we're still not further forward. And then in 2014, things go. This is like the beginning of a really bad period in my life, I would say. Started dating a woman who's like 12 years older than me, and she doesn't think that she is able to bear children anymore. Without even saying this to me, but I'm just being, being a man, and we end up getting pregnant. And we don't handle this incredibly well. We do originally say we're going to keep it, but one thing or another. It's a bit of a long story. We break up, and then she gets rid of it, but she tells me it was a miscarriage. Get pregnant again as we get back together, and then there is a real miscarriage this time, and then she breaks down and tells me, well, the first one was an abortion. Thinks that could be karma or something like that, because she believes in things like that, like horoscopes. At this point, I still don't believe in any of this kind of thing. I think that's all woo-woo nonsense. But that sets forward like a 3-year period of me being super suicidal, where I just think about suicide every day. Every second of the day. Sorry, I can't get my words out. It's the first time I've ever tried to talk about my whole testimony from beginning to end. So I'm trying to do it as best as I can without I was putting loads of edits, and then it looked like I'm, being, lying. So bear with me with this. I'll re-record it one day if people think that I could have done a better job at this. But at the end of that suicidal period, one of the things that I'd done a decision, only just realised that these two things are correlated together quite recently. I stopped taking drugs, like the party drugs, like pills, ecstasy, and things like that. Stopped taking them, and it's not been the last time. I stopped buying it before I went out, if you understand what I mean. So there have been times where I've slipped up, somebody's offered me some, and I've had some, and, regrettable, but at least I'd stepped away from having it before I go out, which was something that I've found now is that pushed me towards God without me knowing. And in that period, one of the things that I've not mentioned is that during that suicidal period, I was so fed up that I was started praying to God to take my life in my sleep, because I was so fed up with life. I thought I'd failed life. The one thing you're meant to do is protect your children, and yet the opportunities had seemingly been taken away from me. So I was like, oh, well, that's it. Maybe that was my shot and it's done. I'm failed, so I don't want to be here anymore. So the psychology I'd managed to that running through my head when I was really suicidal, but because I was maybe too prideful to take my own life, I started praying out to God to heal me in my sleep, which, unbeknownst to me now, I suppose it might sound silly if you're an atheist listening to this, but I was actually then reaching out to God every time that I prayed. And I didn't do it a lot, but sometimes I was so fed up that I did it, often enough times that God did communicate to me. And in the middle of that suicidal period, he gave me a prophecy as well. I'm not going to disclose in this video what that prophecy is. When it comes to fruition one day, I'll tell you that that's the prophecy that God told me about in that suicidal period, but I'm not going to disclose where it is for now. So then, yes, in 2017 then, just as I move into a new flat, on the first night I'm in this new flat, something strokes my, I've got that mixed up. Something nudges the bed, so I'll give away what happens later on, but something nudges my bed in this flat on my first night in there. And there was a couple of other events as well, which I would put under probably being demonic oppression again, like trying to do things in my presence to upset me, but it was never like all the time. But there was a few events while I lived there, to be honest. But for the brevity of this video, I'll not get into those. So where was I? Yeah, and then I believe towards the end of 2017 in winter, and because it was snow everywhere, me and my friend were walking through a field, and then the same friend who had witnessed the head go past the window many years ago when we were teenagers. This time there's two silhouettes as we're walking through this field, and it's all covered in snow, so two dark silhouettes standing out in the same field as us stand out. They're definitely not our shadows, these are two silhouettes. And not only that, as I point out to my friend and go, oh, we're not alone in the field. And he says, oh yeah, so I know that I'm not just seeing something, he's seen the same thing I am. And as these two shapes reach the pinch point where we would both meet, there's a gate, but these shapes reach it first. The light comes on, so it registers something's there, but as the light comes on, poof, nothing there. Both shapes just gone. No more silhouette, no shapes being lit up by the security light. Nobody goes through the gate. We can't hear anything with the gate open because it creaks. Nothing until we get to the gate, and then craziness. Again, I would put that down as demonic oppression. Probably, from my understand, being attached to us. Yeah. So then if I fast forward to about the Christmas of 2019 where I move house. Then that is the event where on the first night in this house where I'm now, something strokes my big toe, my right foot, as I'm falling asleep on the first night again, which I now consider that it was the demonic oppression, potentially Lilith and whatnot, following me, attached to me, and letting me know that, I'm still here, we haven't left you alone. And even now, even as being a member of Christ family, they still don't leave me alone, to be honest. I've had to get Jesus to cast them out a few times, but I'm maybe getting ahead of myself, getting towards where I am now, and there's still some more events to come, because at this point, I still don't believe in God through all these events still, which might seem a bit crazy. It does seem to me that I was a bit slow on the uptake, but God was patient with me, and I eventually got it. I eventually got to it. So, so I'm at summer of 2021, where I live in this house, and there's 4 weird noises. Like, one is as I'm sat on the toilet, live on my own, so the toilet door's open, like, who cares? There's a noise behind me though on the windowsill. It's like something falls over, like maybe it's a toothbrush I've left in like one of those packets and it falls over. Something like, I'm not sure what it was. Maybe to this day probably wasn't paranormal, but it was the first noise that got my attention. Then what sounded like it was upstairs in my bedroom. I hear like a dum. I'm not sure if it was next door or my actual bedroom. It sounds like it's more or less straight, like forward from me and up. So could have been either. And then third set of noises, because this was more than one, coming down from my bedroom. I hear dum dum dum. So that's like 3 footsteps, and then the door swings just ever so slightly. So I think somebody's now coming from my bedroom towards me, sat on the toilet, prone, obviously, like probably one of the worst positions it could ever be in, sat with your your trousers around your ankles while you're doing the business. And then 4th noise, even though the toilet door is open and I can see the door handle, it never moves, but it makes a noise like meep, as though somebody's just quickly like rattled the door handle on the toilet door. So then I think something's coming towards me, but then that was the end of the noises. No more noises at that point, for that event anyway. So then, in November of 2021, this is where I finally find God. I'm around at my friend's house and my relationship is breaking down. It doesn't break down straight away, but I kind of know that this is the end. We don't seem to be able to change the differences we might have and make the relationship work. And so I'm sad about it. But then as I'm playing a computer game, my friend says to me, "Oh, what's happened to you? Thought this was your time. Just relax." And then it was weird because like with each sentence, it was like, it meant it was personal to the game, but about my personal life as well, about how I felt. And it was like with each one it said as though God was highlighting it with me with a highlighter when it was being said. Even though my friend is atheist, I was like, what? I tell you, I found God in those sentences when they were said. So God pointed at me like, because I had this like electric feeling that rose with each sentence in me. When it was just relax, that was the message. God was telling me to just relax. I didn't relax though, and the relationship did ultimately still end. But I still consider this just relax as being a continual message that God wanted me to pay attention to bring me closer to Him, which is what I eventually did end up doing. Even though I was a bit clueless still. So now I found God, but I'm still a bit clueless. I haven't come to Christ at this point in my testimony. So then, in the summer of 2022, on the hottest day, still to this day, the hottest day on record in the UK, I am sat on a bench, and I have this photograph of myself to this day, because my friend took a photograph after he said these sentences to me. The same friend. But before he said these sentences, there was clouds in the sky, but the clouds had like hollowed out part of the middle of the sun, or not hollowed it out, but blocked out the middle of the sun. So then it created like a letter C, and even though the clouds are moving, this letter C stayed over the sun, or stayed making a letter C with the sun, and it stayed there for like minutes on end, and I was just transfixed watching it while my other friends were talking amongst themselves, had not noticed it. And then my friend who said the other sentences which led me to God, then even though this guy is atheist, says to me, God's shining on you. God's shining on you. What is he telling you? He's like, he's like messing around really, but I'm thinking like, it potentially is there. I do feel like he's trying to tell me something, and I'm being stupid, still not working it out what this means. It seems obvious now, but at the time I'm still like, not really knowing exactly what this sign is that he wants me to observe, other than just relax, because I'm still not relaxed. I'm still down in the dumps. I don't know if I'll ever be able to have a family and whatnot. I feel like I've like the game got busted with this last relationship that has fallen apart. I'm like, poof, maybe I should just give up. So I'm not relaxed. God's telling me still to relax. And then there's also this letter C, which will come in handy again later on. So then I get to spring 2023, and still not 100% sure. I'm like, still sometimes look to the sky, see if there's more signs, and I get one. And this time there's like two sets of clouds. There's like some that are like higher up and seem further away, and they're all being lit up by the sun as it sets. So it's all like purple and pink and like bits of orange and lovely. But then closer to me, there's this like big, like little blotchy black cloud, like full of rainwater or whatever. It's like it's closer to me, so it's nearer, but the other nicer clouds are much further away, and I can't understand this at the time. I was a bit like, what am I meant to be understanding here? And then eventually, because I find with some of these messages from God, like I don't understand it instantly, or didn't before I came to Christ anyway. Now I'm more tuned in and I can get the message more first time. But then I didn't understand it. And again, it seems obvious, but the message was that there was something more beautiful further away than what I was concentrating now in the immediate future, which was like the relationship stuff, like with a woman. The relationship with God is the more beautiful connection. And I'm sorry if any women don't like me saying that, but I suppose any women that have also found God, you'll understand that there'll probably be never a man who will compare to your relationship with Christ. We are meant to put him first, so I don't think I'm really saying anything wrong there. So autumn 23 bangs. Yes. So then autumn 2023, something bangs at the bottom of my stairs, and I know what I'm doing wrong now in retrospect, because I'm talking to a girl, and we're both sinning that, because I later found out that she was lying to me. I was lying to her because I was like multiple women and being dishonest, deceptive, which is sinful. So that's an open door, and that's where I really think that this attack got launched. Rob got the open door in, and it banged at the bottom of my stairs where I live. And not only did I hear it over the music, because I just got back in from running, I still had my music playing in my earbuds. I heard it over the music. I felt the floorboards wobble on which I'm stood, because underneath is like a basement, so the floorboards wobbled from the force of something banging behind me, and I felt the force go past my legs as well, so like wind or just the sheer force of like you might get from a firework when that goes off, sort of thing, like that past my legs. So I was like I'm looking at myself rather than kind of 3 points of contact, like, or 3 markers that I knew that had just happened, and there was nothing there though. Poof, nothing there. And again, demonic activity probably attached to me using my sin as an open door to like manifest things in the real world. So spring 2024, yeah, and then that's the last time. Oh, but before I should get to this, sorry, I had noticed that something would sometimes, I feel like something was pulling me on my shoulder, and I could never explain it, and I know now what that is. I'm going to get to it later, but I just want to point out that sometimes in this period, sometimes it did feel like something was pulling me back when I'd be on the phone doing sinful things, lusting and whatnot. Yes, spring 2024, this is the last time I was sexually active, and I make a decision to not engage in hookup culture anymore, because I can't be bothered with it. I could regale you with many stories, but I don't think this is maybe the video for me to get into my sordid past. But there's been events, where you're far away and we have to do the walk of shame to get back home. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Was it really worth it? Do I really feel a lot better for doing that? Is it just my own ego? So I stop engaging in hookup culture, and I just think, if it's not going to be my future wife, what benefit is it to? Am I really doing something to benefit my own life by engaging in this? I've done it enough times, what I mean? It's not, I have nothing to prove to anybody. best just to retreat away from it. But as well, the celibacy is something that's pushed me towards God. So if you are somebody still who's looking for God, that is something that will help. Just as I believe fasting is like a similar approach. And when I say celibacy, I obviously mean outside of marriage. But I've never been married, so every time in the past I've ever had sex has been outside marriage, has been pushing me away from God. It's something I never knew, and I now know that. So summer 2024, this is maybe like one of the more scary parts again. I have a dream, but this isn't a dream, but I end up going to hell. I mean, I'm only there for like 2 minutes or so, but it's like the worst time of my life. Like that, I was supremely scared while I was there. So I tried to escape. I think it's a dream, and I've always been able to like control my dreams, or at least just end them and like press the ejector seat and poof, I'm out. But not this time. No. And so I can't escape, and I'm being forced to like sort of like I'm like face down while a like 8 foot tall figure. Ooh, I mean this will sound silly, but the best way I can explain this figure is like a demonic version of like Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like kind of looks like that with like spikes on him and stuff, like red eyes. But I'm panicking that much in this scenario in hell that I cannot remember anything that it was saying to me now. Maybe God has shielded me from that, so that I can't remember the taunting I was received. But I know I was being taunted. And they weren't torturing me though. I was like being made to torture myself. So every time I like tried to get up and get away, so like do a press up, my arms break and like split blood everywhere. And the more I try and persevere through that, the faster it just goes. So I'm just like speeding up the torture that I'm doing to myself, and I'm just spreading blood everywhere. And so then I just give up. And I think I must have been. I'll just wait here then, and just sat in my own blood while I'm being taunted. But while my brain's still racing, thinking about how the hell am I going to get out of here? I'm like, why am I here? Like I can't remember dying. I don't remember. Like I remember going to sleep, and now I'm here, and I don't understand why, sort of thing. And it's interesting that after this event, I didn't go to church either. So some people might hear this testimony and think that, oh, you're scared of hell, so you went to Christ, and that's not what happened. I was still a dummy after this. And then as I'm being put back in my body, once I surrender, essentially, once I just admit, like, oh, well, I'm in hell, know what I can do now, and I just surrender, and so I was not there long. I'm put back in my body, and then I'm shown a band, which I won't mention. I don't know, maybe I'll mention it in future videos. Maybe people don't like that I'm trying to hide this, but I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious not to listen to this band if you look at what they dress like. But I was told not to listen to a certain band as I'm like sort of being woken up. And another one of the messages was that God doesn't want me smoking as I'm being woken up. And one of the other reasons I know that it wasn't a dream as well is because everything there was like sort of instantaneous. I knew where I was, and there was no delay in anything. But when you're in a dream, I don't know if you remember, but dreams are like you're unsure what's going off. You're always in a state of confusion. Everything seems to be like almost slow motion and like wishy-washy. And this wasn't that. This was like crystal clear. Knew what was happening. Everything instantaneous. Can't leave. Can't wake up. Can't control it. Nothing I can do. Never happened to me before or after. But, so I still don't come to Christ. Still a bit of a dummy. Just confused why I've been to hell though. But I also, one of the reasons I think I was shown that as well is that God was showing me if he'd have killed me in my sleep like I originally wanted when I was praying for it all those years ago, which he wouldn't have done. But, hypothetically, that is what would have happened. I would have gone to hell, like if I died in my sleep all those years ago. That's what I was being shown. And I know that now. I mean, it took me a while to like understand a lot of this stuff, which has just recently happened. So in 2020, I started to live by the 10 Commandments, yes. So just last year, I think, well, I don't know really if I'm meant to go to Christ or not, but the 10 Commandments seem pretty solid rules. I'm already sort of doing some of them anyway. Start trying to live by the 10 Commandments, so that's like really cutting down on any lies I tell. Obviously, like not stealing. And like I never told a lot of lies or even stealing, but, it's none of us have been perfect. Yeah. So, like, I've really started getting in on the 10 Commandments. And even the one about honouring your parents, which was not one I was really super aware of. But being more in touch with it, I think, is one of the things that helped, again, to propel me towards Christ once I started trying to take that a bit more seriously. And obviously in 2025, then Charlie Kirk is shot. And then now I only just figured this out afterwards, but that was what the letter C, or one of the things that the letter C stood for. Because once I went to Charlie Kirk, once Charlie Kirk was shot, without getting too much into politics, and I might upset some people with me having to bring this up, but it's part of my testimony. I started going to church, which also begins with C. Ultimately coming to Christ, which also begins with C, or bang, 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 C, C, C. There you go. God's message, like this last Christmas, which again begins with C. It came into stark reality why God was trying to show me that C. He was trying to show me the way to Him. But He knows, as you Christians will know, we have to choose Christ. We have to reach out to Him first. So, yeah, that's was something nice to occur at that point. So then, as I started going to church, I noticed things start going better in my life. Like, people are more friendly towards me. Like, they say hello to me first, even though I'm not even looking at them sometimes. And I'm like, oh, hello. Whereas before, everybody's always frosty with me. It's like, seem to exude this persona which, like, don't talk to me, I don't really care. And then people are like all warming up to me now for some reason. And when I try and do things, they more often going my way a lot more. Whereas before, it always seemed to have, like, am I getting the rug pulled from underneath my feet all the time? And it's not perfect, but the polarity shifted. And it's hard to describe. Maybe if you like, somebody else could describe it. If they've started going to church and then they started noticing it, they're like, why is this horse seeming to like roll the dice in my favor more often? And then I started associating with a YouTuber who is, say, a preacher, and I'll not say any more because I don't want to gossip, but I get this feeling that I don't really want to be associated with him. And then this has now turned out recently that he did videos gossiping about another YouTuber they had a falling out with, and he doesn't believe in the Trinity and things like this, which I'm now consider that the Holy Ghost was like warning me away, like, no, not that Christian, like, our journey still lies elsewhere. And he was right. And then not only that, I had a trip planned last year in September. I was going to go do some travel documentary stuff in the Philippines, which is really prone to natural disasters like earthquakes and whatnot. And I had this whole feeling I was going to die before I went. I'd been looking forward to it. I had it all planned, all sorted, and I just had this awful feeling that I was going to die. And then they had multiple some of the worst earthquakes I've ever had in that period when I was going to be there. And I know people that were in hospital and they knew people that had died in those earthquakes. So I kind of consider that God was telling me, like, don't go there. I want you to go to church, which is obviously in September. That's also when Charlie Kirk was shot. So if I'd have gone there, maybe I wouldn't have started going to church. I'd have like died. Maybe I wouldn't have come to Christ still. There's so much that maybe would have gone a different way if I would have gone on that trip and not started going to church in this country instead, and ultimately undergoing the transformation. So then in this period as well, I start like just casting out demons and start saying, I don't serve you, Satan. I will not be doing what you want anymore. And like really getting into the Christian thing of like acknowledging that there's good and evil. And even if I'm like cosplaying it a little bit, I feel like I'm like, I'm saying, I'm casting out Satan more in my head, almost in a performative way. But what I now know is that I'm like undergoing deliverance here by myself, like through maybe the help of the Holy Ghost, of casting these demons out and forgiving people in my past and admitting sin to other people, just trying to live by these like new sort of ideas. I start ultimately being pushed towards God. So, which then leads me to the Christmas period, and this is the happiest part. And I'm sorry it took me so long to get to actually being transformed. This is a long testimony, but at Christmas, that has just gone, 2025, I accept that God came to earth and lived amongst us. So this is like 4 years now after I've found God. There's a 4-year period there of where I believe in God, but I'm not atheist anymore. And I accepted that God came and lived amongst us, and his name was Jesus. And then as I accept that, on the 21st of December, I am like, I wonder when the transformation that Ezekiel talks about, where he says that I will take from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh and give you a new spirit. And because as I'd say the Lord's Prayer, now believing that Jesus really did come to earth and he was our saviour, as I open my eyes, I've like just got tears running down my face, and I wasn't upset or really happy. I was just like, felt normal. I just like, going through the motions sort of thing of like praying, but with actual belief in my heart this time that Jesus was our saviour. And yeah, I have tears all running down my face, and I'm super confused by it. I'm like, wow, I'm crying. What's this about? I'm upset. And then as I walk home, I walk past the dog, and this dog that's a pure white as well. And it comes to me, and it's just like, it's not really happy, and it's not really aggressive. It just comes to me really quiet, stroke him under his chin and down his ribs and whatnot, and he goes on his way past me, and his two owners look at me like, look at each other and look at me and go, it's not usually that friendly. That was uncanny. I'm like, oh, well, I'll just consider it a good sign. I kind of wanted to say I've just been from church, but I didn't want to look like I'm shoving religion on him, so I just said, oh, I'll consider it a good sign, and went on my way. But then, 10 minutes later, I walked past a guy who looks up from his phone. As he looks up with his phone, he's like scowling at me. But then I also feel like this other presence with him, and I can only just describe it as like purple, like bald and bulbous sort of thing. Like, it was like something else was not happy to see me, and all I can gather is that now that I walk with the Holy Ghost, I emit an aura, and some of these demonic entities, it's like it's displeasing to them, and they can't help but like become enraged by it. And I've sort of experienced this subsequently as well. And then in this period, I'm being transformed now, and like God is like sending me almost constant revelation. Nothing new. I'm not like a prophet or anything, but He is got a reordering my thoughts in my brain, so I come to the understanding naturally of what Jesus was trying to achieve on earth. And this has sometimes been proven when I've talked to other Christians, and they've told me the Bible verse for the thing that I'm saying, and I think that's pretty good going. I mean, I'm learning the Bible verses that back up the things that I say and whatnot. But it's like I'm not a prophet or anything. I just think that God just was incredibly intimate with me due to my lack of sin, and that I'd come so close to Him from trying to live as pious a life as possible, that He was able to be so intimate over a 2-week period with me to like reorder my thoughts. And I maybe won't get into everything that changed, but like, I really did start to understand how sad Jesus must feel for like all the sort of bad things that we do to each other on earth. I could feel that. And then one of the things that happened from this point afterwards is that I became an empath as well. This is something I used to think was woo-woo nonsense when people said they were empaths, but now I'm an empath. So, and there's many things that changed from this point, but I suppose just in this period, before I get onto the changes, there was an event where my friend was burning some this table that me and my other friend, in a sort of an argument that he caused, this not is the guy who owns the table, but another friend, he like kept punching me and kicking me, and I kept telling him, stop doing that, because I'm not going to be responsible if you keep doing it. He kept doing it, and then I put him through this coffee table that was made of like glass and wood. Don't feel very proud about it, still don't, but you know, whatever. So my friend was burning this table that had been broken quite some time prior, and then I say, like I'm an idiot, I say, oh, it's symbolic, this burning that table. Little do I know I've just cast a spell. Maybe some of you that know about witchcraft and whatnot will be saying like, yeah, silly mistake, I'm just learning this stuff. But what happens then is that my rectum starts stinging, like incredibly painful stinging. My balls are aching, my kidneys ache as well, and it's so odd. But then I'll go back home to get some painkillers, but as I get home, because I live very close to where this friend lives, the pain subsides, almost gone. So then I go back home, go back round to him, because I was only going to get painkillers anyway. As soon as I get back round near the fire, I'm in pain again. And then, because at this time I'm like smoking cannabis with my friend, I go inside to roll up. And as I move again away from the fire, it subsides, but it doesn't completely go, because I'm still quite near the fire in relation to how much further away I'd just been previously. I'm so close still that it's still sort of painful, but I could tell it subsided a little bit. And then as I go back out to smoke the devil's lettuce, that the pain comes back again. So I'm like, there I've like gone to this fire and away from it on 2 occasions and experienced the subsiding and increase of pain. So I'm just like, I've cast a spell by accident. I'm such an idiot, and I kind of realised at this point that that's what I've done. But then by the new year, that's where I've finished the transformation now, where like my mental issues are like, so not mental issues, but like, whereas before my mind seemed to be racing all the time, like thoughts. Now it's like more serene and calm, and I'm more able to like control my thinking rather than it being like an overthinking juggernaut that's just continually running like a continual train that goes through a station that never ends. Now it's like a field. My dreams get a lot better. I stopped like seeing random people in my dreams, which always used to be a factor where I'd like be people I'd never met in my life in my dream, and I'd be like, how is my brain able to like render this complete person and personality out of thin air? And now I honestly believe that was the demonic influences affecting my dreams prior that were rendering or stealing the identity of real people to put in my dreams. Maybe if people know more about the dreams, you can let me know in the comments. And so I stopped getting sleep paralysis. Still haven't had sleep paralysis in my dreams, in my sleep since coming to Christ. People, the friendliness thing is now ramped up to 11, and now I'm more friendly as well, though. I now smile at everybody I walk past, usually, unless, maybe like the enemy's been having like a bit of a go or whatever recently, but if in these some occasions where I've not, but primarily now I'm always like smiling at other people and see if I get a smile back, and if they don't smile back, I don't really take it personal anymore, even though I would have in the past. My ego would have manifested. I'd been like, oh, do they think they're not? There they are, not smiling at me. But now I'm like, oh well, didn't smile at me, then it's no problem. But now I'm much more friendly as a result of coming to Christ. So as well, but then one of the bad things is people who sometimes I've noticed that have more demonic oppression happening in their life through whatever kind of sins and stuff that they've got going on. They get increasingly upset by my presence, and especially if I start talking about either Jesus or how demonic entities work. Quite interesting. So it's not always the Jesus thing that seems to set them off, which many Christians will notice that mentioning Jesus to certain people like really sends them into a bit of a fit. But you're same with the demons sometimes. And I'm like, why are you getting so angry about this? Why wouldn't you like be more trying to mock me for believing that demons are real? But no, some people seem to get really angry, which I still put down to like, having more than an amount of demonic oppression, which is higher than the average person, is what I would attribute that to. So yeah, and then I had 3 dreams about demons. First one was like maybe the freakiest in one way, because it was the demon had taken the identity of one of my friends, but me and my brother in my dream outwit him. We know it's a demon, and then we trick him. But then after that, he becomes enraged, goes, and then this is still in my dream, sends my brother a text message, and he's upset, going, oh, why did you let him know that we knew? Now he's messaging me, and this demon is my friend is like levitating in thin air in front of a bathroom window mirror, naked, with his hands out, like, so, in that like sort of pose that might attribute, with his legs crossed, levitating in thin air. And it says, we can't wait to destroy Plato's cave. And that's what it says on the dream, which I kind of do foresee that as being a Christian now, that the demons were more than happy about when they get to reveal themselves to us all. They are actually looking forward to that. That's why I attribute that to now. And then in the second dream, a demon's coming towards me, and I decide to invoke the name of Jesus to see if it will indeed like beat the demon, and it does. As soon as I didn't even get the full word out, I said Jesus, and as I get to Jesus, like the whole world just goes just crystals, and I wake up. And then in the third dream, I now know this was Lilith coming back, and Lilith had been giving me these dreams, maybe once a month. Maybe other men will get these as well, where it's like you're going to have this opportunity for sexual intercourse in the dream, but the woman is, although she is really up for it, she really wants it. It's like she's prone at the same time, so she might be like chained up, she might be locked up in a room and she can't get away from you that way, or there's like it's like Attack on Titan outside the building where you are, so she can't get away from you, but she still wants you at the same time. But so it puts you in this like weird grey area in your dream. Which obviously, if you take advantage of that in your dream, you do wake up obviously feeling bad about it. But she comes to me this time, and I show her love rather than like engaging in the lust part of it, and she becomes angry, and I subsequently wake up because obviously it freaks me out a little bit. And then the demons still managed to beat me, and because although I've combated lust and I'm beating Lilith now on lust, because I go back to sleep to do it again, beat her again, she gets angry. But they're tapping into my pride, and I must have done it maybe 5 times. And I wake up. Well, by the time I've finished doing it, when I wake up, of like casting, well, not casting her out, but showing her love. But saying, no, it's okay. We can just cuddle, or we can just kiss. We don't have to have sex, or something like that. I can't remember now where the exact intricacies how I, just showed love, but I just showed compassion in the dreams, and it was. I should have just cast her out the first time. As soon as I woke up, I should have gone, "Oh Jesus," I'm sure you get the point. Anyway, we don't have to pray. At least I'm been finding out how to pray anyway. Yeah. Then I had recently, because the worst sin I've always struggled with is like wrath. I suppose people call me names. I want to call them a name back. And because I won't stop doing it on Facebook and whatnot, Jesus essentially gives me a dream where I'm dressed as Jesus and I'm crying. And it's that same thing where I felt at Christmas with like all the pain in the world that we cause each other. It's like I could feel the pain I was causing, I suppose, by saying wrathful things on the internet. And not only was I like so crying dressed as Jesus in this dream, but when I woke up I was crying anyway. I'd been really upset by this dream, so I was like, I really need to like knock this quarrelsome attitude off, and I have done so subsequently. Then I also had an event where God fixed a jacket of mine. In this, well, I was going to say it was a dream, but it wasn't. I was walking back from a local village, and I noticed there were like burn marks on my sleeve, and I was really annoyed because this jacket's nice. A lot of people compliment me on it as well, but for once I just like let go. I thought, people are getting bombed out of their houses in other countries. Like, I've got 2 arms, 2 legs. I'm still relatively fit. I can walk all the way home. It's not a big deal. Things could be a lot worse. And by the time I get to the top of the hill walking home, which is like 10 minutes later or so, I look at my sleeve and it's more or less gone. 95% gone. Like, these marks are no longer black. They're white now. And it's not like burn damage anymore. It's like regular, like a mucky mark, or a dirty mark, I should say. And I fully consider that as like almost like God showing me I was on the correct path, in that I was letting go of material possessions, not being worked up about something that doesn't really matter, that he repaired it for me anyway. You know what I mean? And at this point, I still don't ask for things from God at the minute, because I'm just coming onto God's path. I don't really ask for things, but that's maybe not for the point of this video at the minute. And then the most recent thing that happened to me is at Easter, I was in a phone call with somebody and they asked me a question and I didn't want to answer truthfully, so I lied, and I knew I shouldn't have done. And the moment I lied, something grabbed me on my left shoulder here. And I'm surprised they didn't mention it in the phone call, because I instantly looked round as though something had just put its pressure down on my left shoulder at the instant I told that lie. So I know what it was. I opened the door. The enemy took its moment to like embarrass me, however, in front of this other person. And then after that event as well, after the phone call had ended, I was like incredibly angry with them for asking me the question, angry with myself for lying, angry that I'd failed Jesus, angry that, after doing so well, that I'd given into a sin. And then I started feeling sad. Sad that I'd lied to somebody else, sad that I'd let myself down after doing so well, sad that I'd let Jesus down, that, and that I know I shouldn't be doing it now, and that I did it anyway, and I was so sad. But I then realised that I've realised that my emotions have been manipulated now, because I'm like, well, which one's next? And pride, lust, well, which one's going to come next? Which emotion? Because I'm aware of what they're doing to me now. So then I do pray to Jesus and I apologise. I say, look, I know I shouldn't have told that lie. I do apologise, Jesus. Can you just get, the enemy to leave me alone? I don't really fear them, but they are so very annoying, and that's how I word it. And some of you might think I'm being foolish for not fearing Satan, but I kind of feel like once you come to be with Jesus, like, you don't need to fear him. Why would I fear him? He's nothing. He can't do nothing to me now. So then I'd say is up to where I am now. There's probably some other things I've forgotten about, to be fair. I've tried to keep it brief. I've gotten on for 44 minutes now. So if you're still watching at this point in the video, thank you. And feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll try to talk more about my journey. Because, I mean, one thing I ever mentioned, like, God did give me abilities, but I don't talk about them a lot because I don't know if it's going to end up getting me in hot water. Like, but maybe one day I will disclose what, like, sort of abilities God gave me. But they're for to increase His kingdom. They're not to be used, for my own gain. So that's probably why, a good reason why I'm keeping them to myself at the minute. But yeah, anyway, I'll leave it here. Thank you for dropping by. I'll see you in the next video, hopefully. Cheers.